Welcome to the Boston Art Podcast,
Boston's premier art podcast,
where we talk art, culture, and philosophy.
I'm Brian Huntress.
And I'm Theodora Earthworms.
Here is the show. Okay, guys, here is one from the vaults this week. We are catching up and planning some really interesting interviews and episodes for you guys. But for now, we are going to air a two-part episode. One, the first half is from all the way back in April of 2021. We discuss the letter project. We discuss some very sad and morose, demure, lugubrious thoughts about coronavirus, as we do on many episodes. And stick around the 30-minute mark for part two, where we discuss something else. I don't remember right now. Thanks for listening. Bye. Wait, no, not bye. Thanks for listening. Keep listening. Yeah. I don't actually want to do this.
Okay.
But we're doing it, apparently.
All right. This was your idea like 2 seconds ago. Yeah, you kind of do, it seems.
This is the Boston Art Podcast.
Welcome.
We're in Boston.
We're filming an episode, apparently.
In the car. On 93. It's about 4:15 in the afternoon. The sun is high in the sky. We are just before the tunnel, and there is an incredible amount of traffic. To my left is that tower thing in Boston. That's the exact same stone tower that's in P-Town, but it's just in Boston. Pine Street Inn tower thing. I don't fucking know, man.
I don't know either.
I don't know. We're trying to make a documentary right now.
Sort of a difficult task. I don't know why. I don't know if you thought this. I definitely went into this like, haha, we'll just do a documentary. It'll be easy. We'll do it tonight.
Well, we're doing, I think, what I said where I said that, I think, remember when I was like, I think that we should just be as dry and plain and to the T as possible as far as like following what we had already written down in the letter project zine, and to just basically use those as scripts, so that we didn't do this where we ended up directionless. But we didn't really when I said that, I didn't account for the visual aspect of the documentary.
Yeah. Which
is where we didn't have a plan, which is why we're now directionless again. We just tried to film at a location in South Boston, and it just wasn't working. It was windy. I just didn't feel right. It just was not the right shoot. So then we just got in the car, got on the highway to just zip up to another place to shoot, which is what brought us here, where I just forgot that rush hour traffic in the center of Boston is something that happens when you're driving at this time in the city.
That's okay.
Congestion, you know. Also, basically the whole stretch from Quincy to Dorchester, or even further on, where we are right now, is unbelievably hot always. I mean, why did I say hot? Unbelievably trafficked.
Yeah. Always
at this fucking point.
This specific area, yeah.
I fucking hate this fucking area. So much, dude. From the water tower, from Quincy all the way past the water tower, all the way up to Chinatown. I'm sorry. I don't know why I wanted to document this moment. But we are.
It's an important moment. We've also been documenting a lot of outtake audio and video from the documentary, so I'm sure we'll probably use that at some point. Because
the documentary isn't really a documentary. We're using the documentary format, but what it is it's the best way it's the best way for us to get the word out about the letter project.
Yeah. Which we are finally dropping within the next few months.
Yeah.
Finally.
Motherfucker. Oh, it's so hard. I need food.
You do need food.
I feel like shit. Oh, man.
This project also just stresses you out, too.
This project gives me hives.
Do you want to talk about that?
I guess. We can talk about whatever. I don't care.
I just mean in general, because I feel that's
sure.
something... You were talking about that a lot yesterday, in
Yeah.
terms of hitting roadblocks in this project, and we haven't talked about it today at all.
Well, so formatting a book that is in magazine. It's so... What the Letter Project is, in its object sense, like as an object, is it's like an 80-page magazine.
Yeah.
Printed magazine. That's what it is going to be. But, so formatting that is, like, from a technical aspect, an absolute pain in the ass. With naming the files, correcting the format, like, proofing it, like, it's formatting an art book.
Yeah.
Is what it is. And whatever, though. That's not, like, and I thought that was a stressful part, getting all the files together and getting the pages right and worrying that you wouldn't like what I made or that you wouldn't like your artist page or like this or that or whatever. And I was like, I can't fucking do this. Like, but that wasn't really it, I don't think, because that stuff actually isn't hard.
Yeah.
It's
tedious, but...
It's tedious, sure, but it isn't actually... It is absolutely not beyond my skill set.
Yeah.
But what I have not been very happy about, and what actually has been really, really stressful for me, is the idea of going back to the before world.
Yeah.
I don't want to. I'd rather just drive around all day with you and make art that doesn't matter, that I'm not going to sell. I don't want to play shows again. I don't want to manage precarious social situations. Like, I don't want to see people that I don't want to see. Like, I don't want to have FOMO when I don't go to, like, I don't fucking know. Like, and I want all those things in a sense, like the idea, like the euphoria of seeing people I love and like eating good food and being around friends and hearing live music. Like, I haven't heard the sound of a violin in over a year, or like deep upright bass harmonies. Like, I haven't heard those things, you know?
Yeah.
And that would be beautiful to experience. Obviously, I want that. But this project has turned into, what the fuck? That guy just has a giant tree branch hanging out of his trunk. They're probably doing an art project. Anyway, but...
It's very distracting.
It's very distracting. It looks like a cool thing, worth keeping.
I like it.
Maybe they're transporting an actual plant. Like, maybe that's just like a literal plant.
Oh, yeah, like
and
sideways.
like the inside. Anyway, but yeah, no, like, I just don't want to. I don't want to, man. I feel like there's a lot of baggage, and I feel like I've grown in not like so far past, like I'm beyond how the world was before, or like I'm beyond who I was or the people I was around. That's not what I mean at all. But I've grown, maybe not far past that life, but I've definitely grown far away from it.
Yeah.
Whether I'm better or worse or whatever isn't really the point. But I'm definitely just not in the same place. And I want to go back, but now I feel like the Letter Project has almost become this like beacon or this like symbol of re-entry. And I feel like resisting it and avoiding it and not putting it out and not selling it and not giving it away to people has been, I think, maybe me like clutching my cold, dead hands to this part of my life and not wanting to let it go.
Yeah.
And wanting to just stay. Because I feel insulated and safe and good. Like, I mean, I fucking got COVID. I'm fucking vaccinated. You know, like, my housing is stable. My family life is stable. My social life is scarce but stable. Like, everything is just fucking stable. Everything's fine. Like, I get to make art. I exercise. Like, I feel like my screen and digital health is pretty good. Could be better. My diet is great. I eat. I cook for myself all the time. Like, my life is just good right now. And I guess I'm like almost like damned if I do, damned if I don't. Like, I feel like my life would be ruined if this ended and I had to go back to being social and going to shows all the time. And I feel like my life would be ruined if I didn't.
Well, I guess I am curious about that because first question, do you feel like the Letter Project symbolizes that for you because we said we were going to release it when everything went back to normal?
Maybe.
Okay.
I think what I've realized this week, which is why I have basically ponied up and we're working on it again. Because I feel as though I have realized that there was just some stress about this that was all of the things I just listed are what I was actually feeling under the surface, but I didn't explore that and realize that. So instead, I was like, this project is the source of this feeling.
Yeah. And
so I think I misplaced this feeling and ascribed it to the letter project.
Yeah.
And it isn't that. It's a lot more than obviously the letter project, because the letter project, from a technical aspect, is literally easy. It's going to be easy to complete.
Yeah.
The formatting is actually done already.
Yeah. I knew that there was more to it than met the eye.
And I appreciate you giving me that room.
I mean, it's
to
supposed
just
to be
fuck
fun.
off.
Like,
yeah.
what kind of person would I be if I was forcing you into it? What kind of art would it be?
Yeah.
But I do think...
Sorry. No. I don't know. I mean, like... I don't know what the fuck I'm saying. What are you saying?
I understand why you feel that way, and I think that your feelings are valid, but I don't agree with you that that's how it's going to happen.
Right.
I think that real life is already resumed, and your life won't be ruined.
Yeah.
Your life's already happening. This is normal now. And shows will happen again, but you don't have to go if you don't want to go.
I know, but I do want to go. It's two wolves, man. It's a two wolves situation.
But you're not all in or all out either. Like, you don't have to be, like, running a venue at every single show every single night. You can just go for, like, a couple hours and then go home. Or not go to every show.
Yeah. You're right.
You've learned balance over the last year. And it's not like anything is going to take that away from you. You just have the option to go out without training wheels now. You know?
Training wheels being...
Well, you're not just going to fall on your face when you go back into the world. You're not going to lose your stability.
Yeah.
You figured out the stability on your own. You'll carry that with you.
Kind of by accident, because I feel like I've definitely had a lot of revelations. I feel like I have revelations like on a monthly basis.
Yeah,
about
same.
my life and the truth of the universe and why I suck or why I need to fix something or like why I don't suck or something.
That's good. That means you're working on yourself continuously.
Not even. Maybe. I don't know. I'm just kidding. I'm negative right now, okay?
I know. I'm not letting you be that.
I'm in a negative space.
I know. That's all right.
Don't hold back, though. Fire away. Fuck it. I don't give a shit.
Look at that bumper sticker. It says, baby up in this bitch.
Baby up in this bitch. Does that mean that they're pregnant or they have a baby in the car?
It's like a baby on board sticker.
But...
They also have
never mind.
All right, yeah. They're pregnant.
Yeah.
Baby up in this bitch.
Get it? You know?
Anyway,
all right.
I don't know. I think you're gonna be fine.
Yeah, I don't know,
you just
man.
need to chill out.
I'm glad I don't drink or do drugs, because if I did and bars opened again, I'd be like, yeah. Like, I'm glad that I'm not one of those people, because I feel like, I don't know, this is an irrelevant dumb point, but I'm not gonna,
Yeah.
I don't know. I can control the darkness I inhabit.
Yeah.
Not really. I'm just fucking, I don't know what the fuck I'm saying. I'm an asshole right now. I'm an asshole right now. It's too hot in this car. I'm hungry.
I knew you were hungry.
Well, I didn't know I was hungry.
I asked you.
It
like,
took a
20
little
minutes
while.
ago. I asked you like 20 minutes ago if you wanted to get food. You're like, yeah, whatever. I don't
Yeah,
care.
I remember. I know that I said that. I'm gonna get off at 29.
All right.
Because there's a dunk. Well, if I can, I will. Because there's a Dunks right in Assembly. Maybe we could just go there and get food real quick.
Take the hell off.
Oh, okay. We won't go to Assembly. Bleep that out. We meant Assembly and... Never mind.
NVM.
Nobody listens to this podcast. Just kidding. They do. Some people maybe. Hi. Oh, Jesus Christ, man.
It's funny how working on art sometimes makes you reckon with things that aren't even about the art at all.
Yeah. I find that very often.
I love that.
Yeah, that's like, I mean, it's literally, yeah, it's like a hindsight is 20/20 thing too, because like, I don't know, like, that is the hard part about work, whether it's work on a fucking farm, or a book, or a painting, or in therapy. You are, like, in a corn maze. Like, you can't see, you can see the task in front of you, and you have a pretty good idea about what lies ahead, or you're trying to control what lies ahead, but ultimately you're trusting the process, and you're trusting yourself that your work in the right now will be good for the future. And we never know that it was good until we get to the future and we can look back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You get a bird's eye view. Like, the farther you go into the future, the more time passes, the more clear the bird's eye view becomes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? With this type of thing, like, where there's going to be a time in our lives where the pandemic has a beginning, middle, and end. You know what I mean? And we're not gonna, we can't see that right now, obviously. Hopefully this is the end, but I mean, like, we can't, like, it's just too thick, it's too weedy. We're in it, you know?
Yeah.
You know, there's the whole light at the end of the tunnel thing, and I'm not trying to be a downer about it, but, like, you know what I mean? And I feel like that's the same with, like, discovering things about yourself with art, is that, like, some of, like, even when I, like, made the tarot deck back in, like, 2018, like, there were things that I was learning, like it's kind of funny because tarot is supposed to be this, like, ultra esoteric, spiritual, occult thing, but I feel like my growth while creating the tarot deck was the opposite of that. It probably wasn't, like, spiritual, esoteric growth, but it was pure, like, technical, discipline, endurance growth.
Well, you took on a huge undertaking with that.
Because it's 78 pieces, and each one of them does not contain a single detail that isn't supposed to be there. Not saying that about my cards. I'm saying that about the format of tarot. My cards, maybe I slacked off and when certain parts or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It could have been better, but, like,
you did a phenomenal job anyway.
Thanks. But yeah, tarot as a concept, every single thing in it has a meaning, and people who really, really care about tarot in an esoteric and occult way really, really care about that placement and those meanings and the color of the fabric of the person in the background of the fucking picture.
Yeah.
Like, it all means something. So to experience that, and, like, was like, it was like an intensive, or it was like I'm running a fucking marathon.
More than an intensive.
Holy
it was like
shit.
a double intensive. 70 images? 78?
78, yeah. 3/4. One and a half.
Well, I think with the letter project too, not to do real. Actually, was there more you were going to say?
I don't
Sorry.
give a shit. No, it totally wasn't.
I was just thinking, like, I think we talked about this in the past on other episodes. It's like really loud.
Yeah, I'm rolling it up. Sorry.
It's hot in this car though.
I know.
We talked about this in the past in other episodes, but it was a process project, and it was an emotional project. And just because the art making is done does not mean that it is not still a live emotional wire. You know?
Yeah. I think once it's out, though, there's going to be such an incredible amount of relief. And even if we just sell fucking 10 copies of it, we'll be fine.
I don't even really care about selling it. I just want it to be... I mean, I would love to do that, obviously. That'd be sick. But I just want it put to bed.
Just get out of the queue. Just get it the fuck off the chopping block.
I guess, but not even. Like, I'm not thinking of it from a production standpoint. I'm thinking of it like it deserves to be done justice. It needs to be published.
Yeah. No, yeah.
Like, it is an emotional...
It's a little more important.
Yeah. Like, I'm thinking about the art and that it deserves completion. It's been a year.
Yeah.
But with that, art is emotion when you're making art like that. It's not a product, and that's why it's so hard to finish, because it's not about the product. The steps of making a product aren't hard.
Sorry. Yeah. You got that right. Wait, shit, I'm a dumbass. I drove to the Fells.
That's okay. There's a Dunks up here, isn't there?
I don't know.
Near like Panda Express or whatever.
Oh, okay. No, you're right. Yeah, we did talk about why that was so hard. Oh, it's gonna be a sweet, sweet release. Once we're out of this car.
Oh.
Oh, and once we publish this fucking thing. But I think I finally, like, I wonder, off topic, what is that stone tower on that hill?
We talk about this every time we pass.
Have we really?
Never found out.
What is that?
I think we decided that it's probably a fire watch tower or a former military tower.
Can you access your GPS right now?
Probably not.
Because if you zoom in on your GPS exactly where you are, you could see if there's like a little field or park right there.
Let's see.
Or a cemetery or an old base.
Well, we are off of 93.
Yeah.
It looks like that might be Hickey Playground.
So there's a playground there.
Well, maybe it's not. Hold on.
Huh.
Oh, that's the image on maps for the Middlesex Fells Reservation. That is... Oh, I don't want to download the Yelp app.
No, that's okay. Don't worry, no pressure if you didn't if nothing turned up right away. It's okay.
Did you know that
Just
apparently
curious.
the Fells have gender-neutral bathrooms?
Yeah, oh, wow.
Does that mean the literal woods? Because I don't think there are bathrooms in the
Earth
Fells.
is a gender-neutral bathroom.
Also, the hours are 5:53 a.m. to 7:33 p.m.
Highly specific. I respect it. They know what they want.
Yeah.
Yeah. For the listeners at home, we are discussing the Middlesex Fells Reservation north of Boston.
Did you know that Middlesex Fells is connected to Oak Grove Cemetery?
Yeah, and probably also, fuck, I forget the name of it. It's the one where, the Return to Sender grave was.
I was going to say,
It's right next to that.
Is that not Oak Grove?
I don't know if it's Oak Grove, but I'm pretty sure Oak Grove Cemetery is like 3 cemeteries that are all right next to each other with different names each.
Okay.
And I think that guy is in one of them. He might be in Oak Grove. For the listeners at home, we just found a very interesting grave one time.
Have we talked about the cemetery thing on the podcast?
We haven't talked much about cemeteries, but I'm sure we've mentioned it a few times that me and Theo, me and you obviously visit cemeteries very often and study the graves and study grave making and funerary practices, particularly of the Northeast. We're not really studied on other cultures per se outside of like North America. Like I wouldn't know much about like maybe South American, African, Eastern graves. But as far as where we are here, we fuck with cemeteries.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, this one grave that we saw one time was really interesting because it was somebody born maybe a few years before us, early 90s, who died in maybe the 20 teens, who just had this very sombering, strange grave, where if I remember correctly, it was just him in this black and white photo with sunglasses on. He's like Ray-Bans, and his grave just said "Return to Sender."
Yeah.
And it was just very...
He was sitting in, it looks like he was in the driver's side seat of a convertible, looking out of the window, giving a thumbs up, I think, or waving, wearing Ray-Bans, smiling, and it said "Return to Sender." And he was probably about our age when he died.
Yeah.
Is this weird to talk about on the podcast?
I mean, I don't know. I think, like, I don't know. We're not really revealing any personal information about this person, and if we did, I mean, this isn't, I don't know. I wouldn't talk about somebody, I don't know. I don't know. We're not telling somebody else's story or something.
Yeah.
Or I don't think we're violating anyone's privacy or anything.
It was just interesting to see.
Yeah.
I wonder how it It just made me wonder how that came to be, because I feel like I know, because like it was just weird to see a headstone that was funny.
You know what?
Because that's
I think
awesome,
that's
honestly.
what it was. Yeah.
And I don't want to get into a lot of detail just out of respect, but we looked it up and it wasn't a person that had an illness or anything. Like, it was someone who had a pretty sudden, violent death that involved an accident. So how did this person wind up with a headstone that was funny? Like, who decided to do that? And was it them?
Yeah. You should open your door so we get some breeze through here. Oh, Jesus fucking Christ.
I don't know why we're even talking about cemeteries right now, but...
Yeah, it's kind of accidental.
Whatever.
Sorry, I didn't mean to...
Oh, it's fine. Don't apologize.
Blacken the mood.
No. That was cool.
That breeze kind of feels nice. Here, would you hold this guy here for a hot minute?
Mm-hmm. It's funny to think about...
What'd you say?
I said it's funny to think about epitaphs and funerary art and things like that, because I think the reason they have so much significance, at least to me, is because it's the way that a person either wanted to be or their loved ones wanted them to be remembered. And I think as artists, we are constantly generating a legacy in a creative sense, but for a lot of people, maybe a cemetery is the most lasting artistic legacy that they have. Like, their plot and the way that they are depicted and remembered. And I think a lot of people, like, when I worked at a bank, there were elderly people that would come in to get their wills notarized and stuff, and it wasn't even necessarily morbid. It was just a thing that you do as an older person to try and take care of your assets and let people know what you want to have done when you're gone. But for young people, that's not really something that, like, I don't fucking know. If I died right now, what would be there? That would probably fall on people that cared about me. So it's interesting to think about who the author of those legacies are and whether they're intentional or not. And to walk through a cemetery after the person has been dead for 100 years or so, or 40 years or whatever, and just see that with no further context is an interesting thing.
Yeah, that's true. Especially because probably like 85 or like 90 fucking % of people, when they are, even right now actually, as living beings, even in the digital age, it's hard to research a person if you don't have like professional tools. Like, maybe there are things that like a private investigator would use or the police or the government would use to pinpoint you or something, but if you're just a regular person with Google and maybe like a friend that works at a library or something, like, it's not an easy time to figure out who people were or what happened to them. Even right now, like, my family's really interested in genealogy, and one thing that me and you have talked about a bunch that I definitely haven't talked about on the podcast is that, essentially, long story short, for context, my grandmother was born... Nobody knew who my grandmother's father was. He was a mystery person for literally... what the fuck? Look at this fucking car.
Oh my god.
Anyway, for literally over 100 years, nobody knew who this man was. That's like so funny.
This person has a sculpture on top of their car.
It was like a germ. Like a sculpture of a germ.
I wish we were a video podcast sometimes. You'll have to imagine it, sorry.
Yeah. But yeah, nobody knew who this man was. He was born in 1914. My grandma was born in like 1934 or something. But essentially, nobody had any idea who he was or the context in which my grandmother was conceived until this week. Me, my mom, and my dad researched the absolute fuck out of this through genealogy, through grave records, through World War II draft cards, like through so many different things, and we figured out this man's identity, where he lived, his living descendants. Pretty fucking weird.
That's insane.
But it was so hard because this man is a fucking ghost, literally and figuratively, where there's like, we can't find photos of him. There's no like newspaper records. There's no like he just didn't do anything. There's no like nothing beyond his gravestone and some fucking relatives that he has that are still alive.
Yeah. Which is the case for most people.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that's why I started saying this. But yeah, so Yeah, it's definitely not an easy thing to figure out who somebody is, where they are. Like, even if you tried to find me, like, for example, like, I live in an apartment right now in the city, but the address on my ID is not the same.
Yeah, actually.
And as the one I live at, I probably won't change it because my lease is ending pretty soon and I'll be moving out of there. So why would I change it to my current address?
I don't even know what's on my current ID.
Exactly. Like, so if there was somebody out there in the world trying to locate you for some reason through public information, you would be pretty hard to track, probably.
Yeah.
Unless they were the police or some type of investigative entity.
Yeah. That's true.
We're, like, verging on being a true crime podcast right now.
That's okay. We are multi-genre.
Yeah. Boston's premier art podcast.
Premiere.
Yeah.
We're professionals.
Very profesh. This is just a quick 29-minute episode, huh? 30 minutes?
Oh, already 30 minutes? That's pretty good.
Yeah. So, considering you have no data, I was thinking maybe we could pause this recording, or even just pause this recording, use my phone, locate some place to get food, and then return to the task at hand, which is this Letter Project documentary.
That could be a good idea, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like all this talk about food and starvation and the pandemic and graves has really sobered and saddened.
I don't feel sad. I think
Okay.
these things are interesting. Do you
This
feel
is
that
just
way?
me. I think I'm just in a weird...
I think you felt bad anyway. You need to eat and then you'll feel better.
Okay, maybe I can actually find somewhere to get food without shutting off the recording. Oh yeah, I forgot that I could do both at the same time. Maybe I should shut it off though. Do you think
Maybe.
so?
I think we should focus on one project at a time.
Okay, yeah. So is this like a little shorty episode? A little bonus episode?
Maybe we'll resume it later. We could finish it tonight or
Okay, yeah.
something.
Either or.
Maybe
The audience
we'll talk
knows.
to you later. Maybe we won't. We'll see.
They're looking at the length of the episode right now, and they know exactly what we chose to do and what we didn't.
Actually, yeah, that's true.
So no mystery here.
Yeah.
All right. You were saying something that you used to do with audio projects. It's 2 days later.
Whatever.
Yesterday, day before. It's a little bit farther into the future than it was 3 seconds ago.
Yeah, for you guys.
You were saying?
It's actually really fun.
Was it a private thought, or was it a podcast thought?
Both, I guess.
Okay.
I was something that I used to do for audio projects and video projects that you don't do and you haven't let me do on our collaboration stuff that I actually think I've learned from and has been really useful is not re-recording things after they've been said the first time. Like getting the first cut or just not using it.
Yeah.
Like restating thoughts that you've already expressed naturally makes them sound not natural.
I think that could be stylistic, stress-based. And I guess I'm not anti that. I think I personally don't like doing it, but I think it's kind of interesting because there probably are a lot of people who do what we do that do that all the time, primarily.
Well, I've done it before, and it's like fine. I think it just takes some of the life out of it. Like you have to be a good actor at the same time.
Yeah.
Which I mean, I don't know. I act, but like
I think
it's not the right vibe.
I think there are a lot of people that write in such a way, where a lot of people who podcast or speak publicly, like that you could even consider this like contemporary oratory, pre-write or script what they're saying.
Yeah.
But I think as for just capturing something in the moment or just getting that like raw energy, I do think it can be pretty difficult. There's a podcast that I listen to a lot, or I haven't listened to in a while because they've been on like a type of hiatus. I think you want a bear ride after FOMO right here.
North Beacon?
Driving through Alston. Yes. Looking for somewhere to pee.
As usual.
As usual. Always looking for somewhere to pee in the city.
I love people who pull over and put their hazards on in the crosswalk at an intersection.
Yeah,
that's the best place to park, sir.
Yeah. And you want to take a right at these lights. Pee sure. Fuck, what the hell was I just saying? Oh, but this podcast, it's called Heavyweight, and I think the host's name is Jonathan Goldstein. He's like, just like a public radio known man. But he always says in his podcast ABR, which I think is funny, is that's what he tells like his fellow podcast engineer people, which means always be recording.
Oh, nice.
Because that is, and you want to follow this little road, and then we're at Stop and Shop, and we could pee here. But yeah, I just think it's kind of a funny idea of just like because It's like when you want to turn right, obviously, you know what you're doing. But, blah, 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 blah. But yeah, like, I guess the idea of sitting down and being like, okay, now it's time to record. It can kind of fuck up the vibe.
Yeah.
Or it can take away a little bit. But if you just got the recorder on and everyone's consenting and, like, people know that it's on, but they're not really, you know what I mean?
Out.
Yeah, you got the wiggles out. You're chilling.
Yeah.
Then, like, something interesting or spontaneous can happen. And I think, too, people can kind of, or an audience can detect when something is a little bit too planned or a little bit, I don't know. I think it can go both ways because, like, if you're a writery podcast, it's probably very good that you script it and you practice and you
for sure
spot real close to the door right there.
You don't want to walk?
I hate walking. I do hate walking so much.
I hate parking. So.
Yeah. It can be good to just pick the easiest spot, even if it is a little far away.
Well, it's funny though. Like, just to finish up that thought before we run inside, I think it is.
Oh, this poor lady. Sorry. You just like sandwiched.
I think that's part of what we've been struggling with recording this documentary. Because usually, as our listeners will know, we just start talking and keep talking for an hour and a half.
And don't edit.
We don't have a video element, so we're not setting up shots or
trying
to do it in the right place. And I feel like there's a little bit of pressure, which is fine. It's been really fun to do, but it's been an exercise. Just like going to locations specifically for the sake of shooting and hoping that everything is perfect in terms of like not doing too much wind or the video looking fucked up or whatever.
Or our minds and attitudes being fucked up.
Yeah, so it's like once we get on location, even if we're in a good mood, everything's perfect, it's set up right, whatever, then it's like, okay, talk now. It's like, fuck, I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
I'm not ready.
Yeah.
I don't want to waste it.
Yeah, but we found out, I think we've had good practice together as far, like, with the podcast.
Yeah.
One thing that literally is, like, a tried and true method of making something not awkward or uncomfortable anymore is literally just announcing that something is awkward.
Yeah.
Or just being like, this isn't right.
Yeah.
And, like, what's going on? Like, something's weird. We're talking weird. Like, this dialogue is not right. I sound stupid. And to just actually vocalize it, because I find myself sometimes keeping it inside, like where I start thinking shit like that, and then I don't say it, and then I start stewing in it, and then it almost like gets you high a little bit. So you start like making, like, you just have shit ideas or shit thoughts, and then you're like in my head I'm like blaming you or something, or I'm like, this is terrible. But that only happens if I keep it to myself.
It's so funny too, because when you do that, I can absolutely tell that's what's happening.
Yeah.
This guy just fucking sent it. He's like pulling out of the spot. There's a shopping cart and a woman behind him.
He's looking at his phone. I can see him.
Asshole. You fucking idiot. She just took that cart to save your bumper. You almost just hit another car.
Oh,
dude.
Jeez. Oh, dude.
Dude, fucking 4-point turn to pull out of the spot.
Oh, man.
God.
Wow. That man will never know of the criticisms we just gave him.
That man will never know the criticisms many people feel about him every day, I'm sure.
Yeah. Asshole!
Fucking Chris.
Chris. No, I feel like that guy looked like a Neil.
He looked like Tony from Survivor.
Yeah, he did look like Tony from Survivor, actually.
Are we still recording?
Yeah, we are. I just set it down. Okay, should we go pee? Should we record in store?
Isn't that, like, illegal?
I think that, I mean, I don't think you can record people's faces without their permission. Whatever, we'll just pause it and go pee real quick. Alright, put your mask on, let's go. Get the fuck out of here. Alright, BRB. And that was part 1. Welcome to part 2 of this episode. Fun fact about the Boston Art Podcast. I don't remember whose car we were in for part 1 or whose car we are in for part 2, but I think that this is the time period where my air conditioner in my car broke. Well, I don't know when, but it happened in between these 2 recordings, because I mentioned in one that the AC doesn't work, and then I mentioned in the other that it does. I don't know. Anyway, okay, here's part 2.
So much.
It has changed a lot.
Hello.
We're just going to deal with the fact that the AC's on, and this podcast episode is going to be a little bit fuzzy.
As per fucking usual, honestly. Who cares?
Yeah, who fucking cares?
Probably our listeners, but I don't give a fuck.
Throwback to the special episode with Joel and Matt of Black Market Therapy.
Yeah.
Where have you, like, so I know we don't really listen back to a lot of the episodes.
I've been trying to
but
lately.
I listened to, the Black Market Therapy collabs, though.
Oh, yeah?
And you should hear what Joel and Matt, or Joel, did to our voices.
Oh, really?
Where they must use some type of in-computer, like an interface that can record phone calls. But basically, it sounded like we were there with them. Like,
really?
the quality was, like, really good.
Huh.
And we, like, were just, like, on the phone, basically, so...
Yeah,
I don't know how the fuck that shit works, man, but it's cool as shit.
Props to Joel for doing that. That's awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess to give a little background on this situation here. Currently on 93, going north towards Boston. It's probably getting close to about 90 degrees out.
Yep.
It's about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And the traffic is pretty fucking thick right now, man. Luckily, my air conditioner works.
Thank God.
But the sun is coming through the windshield, man. It hurts. It's painful. It's draining. I'm hungry. I need to eat something. I need a glass of water.
Yeah.
But all I have is some granola bars and a coffee.
Ain't that just the way? I saw some daisies on the side of the highway a second ago. That was pretty cool.
Do you think that it's a common experience for people in our age group to just always be hungry? Like to just to be like, oh my god, like I only have like a bag of frozen vegetables and I haven't done laundry in a month.
I don't know. I
And
feel like people...
let's just get McDonald's. Oh wait, no, I have no money. Shit.
I think it definitely is the case when you're like high school age, fucking definitely. College age, fucking definitely. Right after college, probably, yeah. 25 or so. I'm rounding myself up right now. I'm turning 24 in a few months, but still. I think people just get more sheepish about admitting it. I think it depends on what kind of job you have. I think there are definitely some people that are like, oh, I graduated from MIT and now I do this shit all day and I have tons of money for some reason and I collect random video games or something. And like, honestly, props, good for you. You picked a good major. And then there's people like me that majored in art therapy and dropped out, and I have P's for the week. Maybe.
Yeah. You know what's funny? It's jokes on everybody, though, because the people who got college degrees in some type of, like, intellectual study and the people who dropped out are probably both kind of fucked. And the real winners are the people that never left their hometowns and learned a trade.
Yeah, honestly.
And they're like, you know what? Like, you might think I'm a townie and that I'm some bum and I, like, listen to Disturbed, but I make, like, $1,000 a week. I'm married.
Yeah.
I'm 19.
I'm 19.
I'm in the National Guard, and I'm fucking rich as fuck.
So
and I'm going to buy a boat. I'm going to take it down to Marshfield and fucking get fucking shit-faced on a boat in July.
Honestly,
on my
so
vacation.
Jealous. Good for fucking you. I wish I knew.
And they're like,
dickhead.
these stupid fucking people who thought I should have gone to college and left my hometown and gone on some like soul-searching spiritual journey where I learned something about myself away from my home.
I will say.
But they didn't. They just became rich.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. What the fuck am I saying?
I don't know. Depends on the person. But I don't regret doing the things that I did because I feel like they informed me as a human being. But I will say, some of the most rewarding work I've done in my life as far as like what's paid my bills. Not talking about like creative
You mean like
work.
rewarding in a completely literal way?
In an emotional way.
Oh,
like
okay,
stuff that
yeah,
I
yeah.
enjoyed the most was either trade work or working with my hands in some way, like labor
Yeah.
work. Which I know is not a thing I can do forever. It's also why I currently have back problems, but I don't know.
And that trip to Skater's Edge.
That was the real reason.
Indoor
actually.
skate park in
Fuck
Taunton.
me, dude. I fell down so hard, and then I got stuck in the bottom of the pool. I couldn't get out, and I fucking whacked my knee like 3 more times after I'd already ripped it open. I was so mad. I was crying. Not because I was hurt, because I was angry.
Basically,
And then I tried to go to work the next day, and I was lifting boxes, and I couldn't bend my knee because I had a big-ass scab I was trying to hide. And I fucked up my back the next day because
you weren't lifting with your back, your legs. You were lifting with your back because you weren't bending your leg.
Yeah, like an idiot. idiot.
Dude, that bowl at Skater's Edge is like probably like 12 feet deep. And you were on it, and you were in it with a stunt scooter. And you tried essentially to ride up a vert wall.
No,
which, for anyone wondering, it's a ramp that goes into vertical wall.
That wasn't what I tried to do. I missed, okay? I was mad because I didn't drop in on the other thing. And I went in it and I was like, fuck you, Theo, Noom. And then I went straight at a curve like an idiot. And then I was like, oh, I'm going to die. And I tried to prevent myself from dying, and I died worse.
To illustrate to the listener what you did, imagine if you were on a NASCAR track where you're supposed to go just in a circle around the whole thing. Now imagine if you just were in the center of it and you just drove perpendicular at the curve directly into the audience. That's what you did.
At approximately 45 miles per hour.
Like right before we left too, like we were about to leave.
That's why I was going so fast. So I was mad because I spent like half an hour not dropping in and being
just standing up there looking
down. And then
down.
that like 10-year-old scooter kid like zoomed by me and was like, and like dropped in for me. And I was like, I hate myself.
Well, scootering is a child's game because so many parents are like, well, I don't want my kid to skateboard because I don't want them to be a drug addict or die or something. Oh so they buy them a scooter instead. And then, but the scooter kids pulled a fast one. Kids that were born in like 2005 duped everybody, and now they have created like a brand new action sport where they ride mega ramps and do like triple front flips on like half pipes, but on like scooters.
Even more recently than 2005. A kid born in 2005 would be 16 right now.
Yeah, that's true. Basically, yeah, there are kids that are like the size of a garden gnome, like doing backflips on gigantic fucking ramps and shit at your local skate park on a scooter.
So impressive, honestly.
Yeah, and they're also so young, and it's like if you think skateboarding is like an irrelevant athletic endeavor, it's like the institution now. Like skateboarding's in the Olympics this year. Scootering is like the brand new underdog.
Yeah.
It is the new. They are such underdogs that the skateboarders don't like them, in a completely unjustified way. IMO. Anyway, enough about that. But yeah, no, the most rewarding work, as you were saying, for me as well, is typically work that engages my body and allows me like to kind of shut off my mind. Because like a long time ago, before, so my first job that I ever had, I was a dishwasher at my aunt's restaurant, which was like a diner. It was essentially it was like a Waffle House or a Denny's. It wasn't, but it was like that. And I was the dishwasher, and I was like 11 or 12. And so I didn't have like an iPhone, so I wasn't able to just go on the internet. And I just had an iPhone. I mean, not an iPhone, a fucking iPod. So I was listening to the same like 50 or 60 songs all day, every time I worked.
Yeah.
And I remember like, and you're soaking wet also. So like electronics are really out of the question when you're a dishwasher and you're in the dish room and you're like soaked and you're doing like what is essentially like really tedious labor for an entire shift. And I remember my most distinct memories from that job are how much, like I heard a phrase recently called mind wander.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a really interesting way to think about spacing out. Because that's what I was doing. I'm like spacing out. I'm like, it was like what's the word I'm looking for? It was like unintentional meditation.
Yeah.
Where I was like psychologically traveling, just like thinking so in depth about the most random fucking things, on the verge of like talking to myself because I'm listening to the just same songs all day, washing dishes. I can't do anything but wash dishes, especially involving electronics. And I didn't have the internet really because I didn't, you know what I mean? Like, It just wasn't the same. Having an iPhone or having a device back then didn't mean the same thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, but like, I just remember how much thought went into it versus a job I had later in life working in addiction treatment
was the complete reverse, where it was a purely intellectual and emotional job with virtually no, like, just roll your sleeves up work.
Yeah.
And that was 100 times worse, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I feel like I may be misrepresented what I mean a little bit, because I agree with that to a degree, but I definitely can't handle a job where it doesn't intellectually stimulate me in some way. But I feel like my bar for what is intellectually stimulating has changed over time, because I've worked a lot of different kinds of jobs before, and like I've worked for my dad's construction company before, carpentry, framework stuff, and I've done that. I was doing that for a little while when I was a teenager. I did that for like a year then, and I did that last year, and probably will be doing it again in the near future. And I found that really cool because it was really physically engaging, but it was also intellectually engaging in a way that maybe I didn't realize beforehand. That, like, practical hands-on skills intellectually engaging versus like the things that you would think would be like when I worked as a bank teller or like membership sales or marketing, that kind of stuff. That stuff sucks. It's like not practical experience that gives you any kind of knowledge you can carry into your life in any way. It's like creating a constituent record, taking down people's ID information, like understanding sales, which I guess that's a useful skill, but I don't know. It's a different kind of intellectually stimulating that doesn't matter at the end of the day. So it's really important that you don't make any clerical errors, but you're also like completely zoned out the entire day, and you're not physically engaged. You're just sitting in odd business wear in a little chair doing stupid bullshit. Versus like something like that, like I was working 8 hours, wicked tired by the end of the day, like covered in dirt and sawdust, but I learned how to do something I didn't know how to do otherwise that I won't ever forget how to do, you know? Or the things that don't occur to you that look like they'd be easy, but there's a technique to how to do it that somebody who has experience is the only one who can show you how to do that. I don't know, I think those things are really rewarding. Even now, in the job that I have currently, I work at a grocery store, and the way that they break up the tasks that we have to do throughout the day, like we rotate on the hour and do different things, and like different people have so much care about the sections that they're working and like the ways that they do it, and there's ways to be good at it and ways to be bad at it in terms of stocking and rotating product and like making sure things get composted when they're looking bad and handling customers and stuff like that. Like, that's intellectually stimulating in a different way, and I enjoy that more than I did paper pushing jobs.
I completely agree. It relates to art in a lot of ways for me, where like there is art you can make that is borderline clerical or like almost administrative, where you're almost doing, you know, it's like very commission oriented, graphic oriented, computer, like, you know, like kind of shit where you're not even doing shit that you even fucking care about. Like you're making like album art for a fucking indie band, or you're like designing a business card for somebody, like, yeah, where like that's fucking like literally like that's fucking horrible. It's like artistic gulag shit. But like then there's art, like where I remember the first time I started working in what felt like a real studio space, which was the barn, which was, you know, whatever, but the first time I started really making art in that space, I realized it transitioned from just sitting at a little easel or something in my room and very carefully painting a small thing to being this big thing. Now I can hammer nails into shit. Now I can use chemicals. Now I can be like I can move around. I can yell. Like it transitioned away from being a kind of controlled, like almost like clerical, like borderline like domestic painting art setting, to being what I would later fall in love with, this kind of warehouse studio way of making art, yeah, like we did at 504.
Yeah.
You know, and what it was like at other studios I've had in the past, which, you know, we have talked about in a real estate and economic way is a very shit system. But even still, there is like something so deeply liberating and stimulating physically and intellectually about just having a giant fucking room where it doesn't matter what happens to the floor or the walls or anything, and you can just fucking make shit in it.
Yeah.
You know?
Just the freedom of not having to contain yourself in any way.
Dude, there are probably artists that we know or that may be listening to this or are out there in the world that actually haven't experienced that yet.
I hadn't until last year.
Yeah, like people working maybe with a little tablet, doing character design, or people who are working in their bedrooms or their parents' living room, or there are people who are in little nooks.
Yeah.
And they don't really have that freedom yet or the know-how to get out of that. It's kind of a funny thing because that's something that's an experience that I kind of take for granted a lot, where that's an experience I tend to assume other people have had when they may not have. I forget.
It depends on the kind of art you're making, though, because I don't think either one is necessarily better than the other in terms of experience. I think maybe the warehouse thing is better if you're a painter or you do large scale things and you do make a lot of mess. But if you're like a digital artist or something, or if you do like watercolor and ink or something like that, I feel like that kind of medium, it can be really nice to just kind of like cozy up on a couch with your cat or something and like do that in like a private setting, like smaller scale. Like, I think it really depends on what you're trying to accomplish too. Because sometimes it isn't necessary to have that much.
I agree, especially from a financial standpoint, because if you didn't have to worry about money, like if money wasn't an issue, I'd have a studio the size of a fucking Walmart.
Yeah.
Like, that would be fucking sick. But, money is obviously a very relevant and important factor.
Yeah.
Huh. You know what's something I really would love to do? Something we learned about one time. I'm making a lot of assumptions about this man's life, but me and Theo have talked endlessly about the artist Sterling Ruby, because he had an exhibit at the ICA and, was making these like monumental giant works, whatever, like huge stuff of all different kinds of fucking varieties, like just the most ridiculously, absurdly diverse body of work you could imagine. Like, it looked like 50 different artists. We're not talking critically about this or whether we liked it or not, but one thing that was very interesting about this guy is that all of his press says that he's like a Los Angeles based artist, right? And to make the art that this guy was making at a monumental level out of things like metal, wood, whatever, resin, fabric, soft sculpture, you need an insane amount of space and money to make that. And just the fact that he's an LA-based artist means that, like, whoa, dude, if you have enough room and enough material and money and time to make art at that level in a place like Los Angeles, you have to have fucking loot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You gotta have a lot of fucking money. And he probably does. He's probably got money. But I researched him more, and I found out the dude had a studio that was like a fucking warehouse. It was a massive studio. But it was in a random-ass desert town with like a population of 100 people, like 50 miles south of LA.
Weird.
Right?
It's actually smart in terms of real estate.
It absolutely is smart, because the guy's probably close enough to LA that he can write on his website that he's an LA based artist.
Yeah.
He probably hangs out there. I don't know fucking anything about this guy, but in the middle of a food desert, in a real desert, in a bum-ass random place where in the Southwest, I can't imagine how much an empty studio building would cost.
I know.
That's got to be cheap. It's probably as much as a fucking apartment. Because in the South Shore right now, in a lot of places, studios are expensive now. But you could probably, honestly, dude, if we did our research and we really, really tried to find a place, we could probably find a shitty-ass, mildewy, mold-ass room with no fucking windows.
Mold-ass room.
For like $75 a month.
Fuck yeah, let's do that.
You could. It would be hard, and those things are very insulated, and people only want their friends to have the studio. Like, it's very cliquey.
Yeah.
But even still, like, if that's how much it costs here, I can't imagine how much a studio would be in like an unincorporated town in Indiana.
I know.
Maybe that's the move. Like, we are, like, so many people in places like Massachusetts and around Boston, there's this talk about like kind of legendary cheap bohemian areas, right?
Yeah.
Where they're like, oh yeah, like Alston's like dried up, it's gentrified now, it's not a cool art city anymore, blah blah, like this shit.
I was talking to somebody who was saying that about the Seaport, and the Seaport used to be where artist studios were and shit.
I believe it. And like now, you know, and there's always talk, you always hear talk about like, oh yeah man, the next few years like artists are all going to move to New Bedford, or like, oh, it's going to be Fall River, that's going to be the next like big art place, or like, yeah man, Dorchester. And that's pretty much, it's pretty true about all, I'm sure all of these places have amazing arts communities. But like, imagine thinking even more broadly. Imagine if you were like, I'm not going to jump into an art studio in Lowell or whatever, or Worcester. I'm going to get an art studio in fucking Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Or like, I'm going to rent a shack in a mountain in New Hampshire. That's got to be cheaper than here. Like, am I crazy? I don't know.
I think I'm following the logic you're putting out there.
It's impractical. Like, you're not going to see me like packing up my car and moving to like a rural farmland.
Maybe.
Like to go make art in a shack somewhere
maybe.
with like a cow skeleton in the yard.
Depends on the shack.
Honestly, same. So we've been discussing some ideas of potentially living in different places. Oh yeah, just ran a red light.
It's a yellow light.
It was a risky yellow light.
It's a yellow the whole time.
But like, dude, like we've been talking like just financially. Like, imagine like, because right now,
yeah,
my rent is $662.50 a month.
Oh, you lucky bastard.
That's before utilities. With utilities, little over $700 a month. I rent a room. I have 3 roommates. You pay a little more, but you're in the same range.
Yeah, mine's $865.
Now, Boston, we're talking without the facts, but Boston is one of the most expensive cities there is to live in. It's probably not the top expensive, but that's what
it's top 3 in the U.S. I think I've heard.
So we manage paying that here in the most expensive city. We don't live in squalor. We don't live in horrible ass places.
Yeah.
Like we live in a completely like there's no mice or rats or like it's like it's a nice place. Whatever. But point being, me and you were having a conversation off the podcast about like, what if we moved to fucking Paris? Would it be that much different?
I have no fucking clue.
Right? Yeah, I don't. I
Paris
don't either.
Specifically, it's like a global tourist location, but I mean, I guess Boston is too, but probably not in the same tier.
Maybe not at the same tier. Yeah.
Maybe somewhere an hour away from Paris.
Exactly. Like imagine living in some bum ass place, like that sucks, and you have 4 or 5 roommates that hate you, but you're like 20 minutes away from the Eiffel Tower. Because like we romanticize the shit out of these. Like think about like Greenwich Village, or like these these art places with like a lineage and so much history. But really, like if you were there like at like 2 p.m. on a Tuesday, like would it be that much different than what we're seeing right in front of us in Alston right now? Like a random person walking, some guy on a bike. Like it wouldn't be that romantic when you're on the ground floor, like when you're actually there. But like in your mind it is.
Well, I think the thing too, but that's hard to remember sometimes with historical art scenes and like the physical location, is that the location itself has jack shit to do with the scene. It's that fleeting moment in history when these great minds made what they were making at the same time together.
Right,
and
yeah.
you never can see that for what it is until it's already over.
Yeah, and with most like mythos and stories that people tell about places, it's important to consider who benefits from the view of that city, because we can think about Paris in terms of Picasso and Hemingway and Gertrude Stein and cafes and Parisian blah 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 shit, like, and that sounds dope, but like how like the people that is a kind of mythos and story about Paris that directly benefits like the Paris tourism department.
Yeah, that's true. Like
that's probably something that like landlords in Paris fucking love.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's like, I don't know, like, who knows?
Which is fine, I guess. But I think the thing to remember to both of our points is, like, if you're going to a place like that looking for fucking Toulouse-Lautrec, he's been dead for a long time. You know?
Right.
Like, pay more attention to what's happening on the ground than the history of the place. Unless you're going for the history, in which case do it, read up, that's awesome.
Sure, yeah.
But if you're looking for the next art scene, it's not something that a realtor is going to tell you about. It's something another artist is going to tell you about when you really give some time to their work.
Yeah, another thing too, it's like when you think about, you know, if you've been in any kind of music or art world at the local level for more than like 2 or 3 years, you've probably seen a number of scenes come and go already.
Yeah.
I have seen so many bands come and go. I've seen musicians and bands and artists that everyone was like, that's the guy that's gonna make it. Like, those are the best people our community has to offer. Vanish.
Yeah.
And just whatever, move on with their lives. Nobody, whatever. Like, the scenes come and go, and like the ones that get written about and the ones people talk about is just like a couple people's memory that they're romanticizing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, maybe some point in our lives will be, you know, like, the only way, like, this whole point in our life could be romanticized if somebody who's really good at writing wrote an amazing story about this time.
Yeah.
And that's what I think happens to a lot of points in history and points in art, where like somebody beautifully documented it. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And like there are so many like, fuck, this is so sketchy. This is so there's so many.
You fucking beep, you're the one cutting them off.
Our life just like ends in that moment.
You know how many times I've wondered if we were gonna get hit and die on the podcast?
Dude, that would suck.
That would be terrible.
We would literally be the Eminem song Stan, and we wouldn't be able to post the episode.
Anyway.
But yeah, like I just think about that a lot, where like if me and you hone our writing skills and become amazing storytellers and writers, like we could theoretically take any point in time in our lives and make it sound like a fucking amazing romantic thing.
Yeah.
Or make it interesting. Like, it's like when you listen to public radio or podcasts where you don't give a fuck about what they're talking about, but the storytelling's just really interesting.
Yeah.
And you're listening. Like, and I feel like that's like, I don't know, man.
I think you're right.
Romanticizing things is what we do. It's the point. It's fun. It's cool. It makes you feel good. It's fun to learn about interesting stories of the past and imagine whatever. Like it's not a bad thing, but it's a double-edged sword. The romanticizing, where it's kind of like getting high on your own supply, so to speak. Whereas artists, we can give out this romanticization. Like we can make people feel good and tell beautiful stories and show people beautiful things. But when you start consuming it and you start taking it and you start really believing it and living like you are the romantic part of it, like you can get really lost in the sauce and maybe even believe some things that aren't true about your own life.
Interesting.
I don't know, man. Like you don't think about like Picasso, or like, you don't think of like Marilyn Monroe, this like beautiful romantic figure, like you don't think about her like paying her rent.
Yeah.
Or like taking a shit. It's a little gross. But like, you know what I mean? Like she would just lived a completely fucking normal life and was a normal person.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, she objectively wasn't, because she lived an extraordinary life, but an extraordinary and tragic and crazy life. Whatever. You get my point.
I know what you mean, though.
I don't know, man. Like I just think it's an interesting thing. I heard a quote one time. I don't know who said it or why they said it or what the context was, but it was, a poet's job isn't to live the poetic experience, but it's to create the poetic experience for other people. And I think that's kind of an interesting thing, because I don't know what the fuck I'm saying.
I think that's interesting to think about in terms of visual artists as well, because I feel like there is this sort of that you do operating between documenting what is happening and putting a lens on it to create a narrative or to depict it the way that it feels or the way you wished it felt or something. Like, there is so much pliability that it's easy to look back at your old work and be like, this is how it was, when really maybe that was a lens, and that's what the art of it is. Which isn't necessarily, I don't think it's a bad thing. I don't think it's a bad thing at all. And I think that if you are lost in the sauce and you're just romanticizing everything around you, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing either, depending on how deep you get into it. Depending on the person, that can be admirable.
What an interesting thing. I don't know that I completely believe in what I have said on this topic.
Me neither, ever.
Okay. You know, I don't know about you, but I'm losing a little bit of steam right now.
Really?
Yeah, I'm kind of hungry.
I'm kind of hungry too.
Yeah. Should we
That's
cap this one?
Yeah, let's get 30 minutes.
Yeah. Well, maybe we'll pick this one back up. Or it'll just be a lost tape
Maybe it can
of
be
life.
IGTV video.
That's not a bad idea. Interesting.
I guess you'll find out when we decide, lol.
They're looking at the length of the episode and they already know what happens. They know that we either shut this off forever or we keep talking literally in the next second.
The listener is so much wiser than we.
The listener is, yeah, it's what an interesting thing. It's kind of like, I think about that a lot. Like Abraham Lincoln didn't know how the Civil War ended while it was happening.
You can only build on what already exists.
What the fuck? All right, I'm gonna get gas. Bye.
My dear friends, me and Theo here at the Boston Art Podcast are trying to build a fucking life based on this shit. You know what I mean? We fucking love talking to you guys. We obviously love making art. Honestly, our interests and our activities in these fields transcend love to me. It is just something that is a part of our DNA that we keep doing. So I'm not asking, I don't know why. I guess I'm just adding on this intro here to just thank you guys for listening, for participating in this media and these things we do. You guys are great. You guys are awesome. Thank you for listening. Thank you to everybody following us on here. And hell yeah, man. So more soon, more shit soon, more soon. Okay. This has been the Boston Art Podcast. Love you guys very much. And thank you so much for listening. Bye-bye.